Okay, Hare Krishna. Once again, welcome everyone to our Tuesday evening Bhagavad Gita discussion. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim Yatkripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinim Paramanandamadhavam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavedanyaya Krishna Prema Pradhayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurakshay Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Once again, welcome everyone. So last time we started chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, and chapter 8 is titled as Attaining the Absolute. And in Hindi, it's called Bhagavad Bhakti. Okay. And we discussed the acronym for this chapter as DEAD, D-E-A-D, DEAD. So overall, this chapter focuses on how to attain the Supreme Lord, how to be able to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. So this chapter, we can say, is art of dying. Okay, how to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. And Krishna talk about the last set of verses which we discussed, text 5, 6, and 7, where Krishna was talking about if somebody is able to remember me at the time of death, they attain me. And whatever state of being, whatever state of consciousness somebody has at the time of death, otherwise they will attain to that state. Okay, so it's very clear statement there. Our last thought will determine our next destination. Yes, that's why it's called the law of last thought. So if somebody is remembering a dog, in next life, they will become a dog. And we have a classic example of Bharat Maharaj from Srimad Bhagavatam, who had renounced everything. He was performing his sadhana, living in the forest. He had attained to the state of bhava. But then he developed attachment for a deer. And when the last moment of his life came, he was remembering that deer. He was thinking about that deer. And in the next life, he became the deer. Yeah, so that is the proof of this concept which Krishna is telling here in Bhagavad Gita. The law of last thought. Whatever state of being one remembers at the time of death, that state they will attain for sure. And then Krishna says, remember me all the time. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmare yuddhacha. So Krishna says, do your duty while always remembering me. So first remember Krishna, then do your work. Okay, it's not that we do our work and then we remember Krishna or then we surrender our result to Krishna. That is one thing. But we should be able to remember Krishna while doing all our work. Okay, so that is 8.7, which we discussed. Now 8.8 onwards, We'll discuss further what Lord Krishna is describing here. So Krishna says, remember me all the time while doing all your work, all your activities. Then the question comes, how to remember you at all the times? Right? Arjuna may be asking this question to Krishna. Can you please tell me how to remember you at all times? And Krishna's answer in next verse 8.8 is very straightforward, very simple. Krishna says, by practice. To remember me all the time, you have to practice for that. So abhyas yoga yuktena chetasa nanya gamina paramam purusham divyam yati partha anuchintayan. So here in this text, Lord Krishna is saying, he who meditate on me as the supreme personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path. He, O Partha, is sure to reach me. So Krishna is saying, whose mind is constantly engaged in remembering me. So how we can remember Krishna at the time of death? We have to practice for that. Abhyasa yoga yukta. The abhyasa. Okay, as in the sixth chapter also, Arjuna had asked this question, how to control the mind? Okay, it's very difficult to control the mind. There also, Lord Krishna says, abhyasa and vairagya. By practice and by renunciation, one can control the mind. And now here it goes one step next. Okay, control the mind. But here Krishna says, focus the mind on me now. It's not about just controlling the mind, but focus the mind on me. Remember me always, all the time. And how is that possible? That is also possible by practice. If we chant the name of Krishna every day, if we try to engage our mind every day on Krishna, then with practice, we will be able to remember Krishna all the time. Okay. And one another principle which was described is in all our surroundings, if we have presence of Krishna some way, somehow, then that also triggers our thought to remember Krishna. So for example, wherever you are sitting in a room and there are pictures of Krishna on the walls. So when you look at the pictures of Krishna, you remember Krishna. And then naming our children, our family members names are on the names of Krishna. So whenever we are calling the family member, okay, you are calling your children, which happens to be the name of Krishna, so it reminds us of Krishna. So making our environment in such a way that it triggers our remembrance of Krishna. So in that way, when we practice constantly, then we are able to remember Krishna and focusing our concentration without deviation. For example, the pastime of Bhishma Pitama. So first of all, why Bhishma Pitama fought on the side of Kauravas, on the side of Duryodhana? It's not simply because he was being maintained by the Kauravas and he was obligated to fight on their side. Actually, that is one very external reason. But what is the internal reason here? Why Bhishma fought on the side of Duryodhana is to fulfill the purpose of the Lord. Okay, one thing his consciousness was, if I am in opposite party of the Pandavas, then I will be able to see Krishna face to face. Okay, because Krishna will be in front, will be on the opposite side. Also, he want to fulfill the purpose of the Lord by showing the example that no matter how powerful somebody may be, how rich somebody may be, how knowledgeable somebody may be, if somebody is against Krishna, then nobody can save him. Okay, somebody can be very powerful, very opulent, effulgent, rich, knowledgeable, but if you are on the side of enemies of Krishna, enemy of on the side of adharma, then nobody can save you. So that is what Bhishma Pitama wanted to show and give message to the world, and so that was the purpose of the Lord which he wanted to fulfill. But now, during his last days, while Bhishma Pitama was lying on the bed of arrows, he is remembering Krishna. In that situation also, he was able to remember Krishna. How was that possible? Because he had practiced remembering Krishna. He was always meditating on Krishna throughout his life. That's why even in that particular situation, when he was on the bed of arrows, he was able to remember Krishna. Otherwise, just imagine if we get one thorn in our foot, what is our situation? We are just thinking of that pain of that thorn being in our foot. And many of us are very impatient, right? We expect, oh, why Krishna is not fulfilling my desire now? Why he's putting me in so much anxiety? Why he's putting me in so much trouble? But Bhishma is teaching us the real patience. So Bhishma Pitama was able to remember Krishna. And Srila Rupa Goswami, actually, he teaches two very essential principles. What are those two essential principles to progress in bhakti? So these are principles are the quality of a surrendered soul. And these are enthusiasm and patience. Both these are needed, enthusiasm and patience. Why? If somebody have only enthusiasm without patience, what will happen in that case? Somebody may be very enthusiastic and may be working very hard, but if the patience is not there, what happens? Then you give up, because if you are not getting the result, even though you are enthusiastic, you are working very hard, but if you don't get the desired result, then one gives up very easily. Even in the process of sadhana bhakti, when we come in this process, somebody is chanting 16 rounds, somebody is coming to temple, and somebody may be working as hard as they can, following the all the regulative principles and giving up so many things of this world. But then somebody may start feeling, I am doing all this for Krishna, I am chanting 16 round, I am doing following all regulative principle, but the things are not working out as I want. People are still maybe misusing me, or I am still not getting what I want. I still have the material desires, I still have these anarthas, I still have this anger. Why it's not working out for me? I have done so much for you, Krishna. What you have given to me in return? And so that kind of question come, because why? Patience is not there. The progress in spiritual life means both enthusiasm and patience. So if somebody has only patience, no enthusiasm, then they become very complacent, right? Then they go into this state of laziness. They think, hey, what is the rush? It will happen. Why I need to work so hard? Let me just go on with my flow. So they are very patient, just okay, just wait. Just like a man who may say, okay, I'm very patient to get my PhD. Okay. But I may not be going to the college, I may not be going to the study. I would just wait. I can wait. So if we keep waiting like that, we will not go anywhere. So both qualities are very needed, enthusiasm and patience. So Bhishma Pitama, he was able to remember Krishna at the time of his last breath, during his last minutes. And there is another pastime. Actually, when Bhishma Pitama is meditating on Krishna, Krishna is also remembering Bhishma Pitama. And there is another very beautiful pastime. So when Yudhishthira Maharaj became the king, he was feeling very disturbed, and he was taking blame on himself, that this is all because of me, because of my greed to gain this kingdom, that all this war happened, so many people got killed. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, he was feeling so much disturbed, and at the middle of the night he came to see Krishna. And as he entered at the doorstep of Krishna, he saw Krishna sitting in a complete absorption, meditating on something. And Yudhishthira was very surprised. Krishna, on whom everybody meditates, and on whom Krishna is meditating. So Yudhishthira Maharaj asked Krishna, on whom are you meditating? On whom, about whom are you thinking? And Krishna said, I am thinking about my dear devotee Bhishma. Why? As Krishna says in fourth chapter, What is the principle? Krishna says, as one surrender unto me, as one approach unto me, I reciprocate accordingly. What is that verse? Chapter 4, text 11, I believe. Anybody remembers that verse? Nobody remembers? I can try to pull it up quickly. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tathe bhajamyaham. So Krishna is saying there, right? As one approaches me, I approach them accordingly. If somebody is worshipping me, in one sense, Krishna says, if somebody is doing my bhajan, I do their bhajan. So if somebody is meditating on me, I am also remembering them. So Bhishma Pitama was always able to remember Krishna, even at the time of his last minute. And Shabari, right, from Ramayana, another pastime of Shabari, how Shabari was waiting for Lord Ram all her life. So what is needed there? Also a practice on a daily basis, practice to remember the Lord, but having the enthusiasm as well as the patience. So in this verse, text 8.8, Krishna is saying, by abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanya gamina, with mind not going anywhere else, remembering, with constantly engaged in me, in that way you will be able to remember me. And then text 8.9, Krishna further says how to remember Krishna, in what form, in what aspects are we able to remember Krishna. So Krishna says one should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is the smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all the material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature. So, how to be able to remember Krishna? What kind of thoughts we should have about the Supreme Lord? By remembering some of his qualities. So, here in text 8.9, Krishna is talking about some of the qualities of the Supreme Lord, that by remembering those qualities, one can remember Krishna. Because meditation, what does meditation mean? Meditation on the Supreme Lord can be of many varieties of type. One can meditate upon the name. Okay, that is the Yuga Dharma, Kali Yuga. One can chant the holy name. Mantra meditation. So when we talk about meditation, people think yes, dhyana. Dhyana was the process in Satya Yuga actually, not recommended for Kali Yuga. That Ashtanga Yoga dhyana. But here in Kali Yuga, what type of meditation is mentioned? Mantra meditation, chanting the holy name, focusing on the sound vibration. So meditation is of many variety. One can meditate on the name of the Lord. One can meditate on the form of the Lord. One can meditate on the qualities. One can meditate on the leelas of the Lord, his pastimes. One can meditate on the spiritual abode of the Supreme Lord. So these are the different forms, different varieties on which one can meditate. So say Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela, Dham, Ityadi. And also instructions also, right? One can meditate on the instructions of the Supreme Lord. Like Arjuna, when Arjuna was returning back from Dwarika, after he heard the news that Lord Krishna has winded up his manifest Leela on earth, Arjuna was feeling very morose and all his strength was gone. He was not able to save the queens. Some of the cowherd men, they attacked and he was not able to protect those queens. So Arjuna was lamenting. He was constantly thinking that all my strength, all my opulence was because of Krishna. And at that time, he started remembering the instructions of Krishna. What Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna had spoken to Arjuna before the war started. Now Arjuna started meditating on the instructions of Lord Krishna. So that is also one variety of meditation. So all these are non-different from Krishna. And when we attach our mind to any one of these also, our minds come into the divine realm and it becomes purified. So any or all of them, okay, so one of these also, Nam, Roop, Guna, Leela, Dham, Siksha, Ityadi. So one of those also or all of those also can be made as the object of our meditation. Here, Lord Krishna is talking about the qualities, meditating on the qualities of the Supreme Lord. And what are the qualities? Specifically, he is mentioning 8 qualities here in this verse, which one can meditate on. Lord Krishna is saying, Kavi, remembering the Supreme Lord as the Kavi means poet, and also it means the seer, Drishta. Okay, Drishta means who knows past, present, and future, as Lord Krishna mentioned earlier also in chapter 7, that I know the past, present, future of everybody. And the extension of this one can understand as being omniscient. So Lord Krishna is omniscient. Then not just the omniscient, but he is also Puranam, oldest of all. Because many other personalities may be omniscient, like the Chatush Kumar, they are also omniscient, but they are not the oldest. So who is the oldest? The Supreme Lord, who is without any origin, and he is the origin of everything. So God is origin of everything, both spiritual and material, but there is nothing from which he has originated. Okay, so nothing is there which predate the Supreme Lord. That's why in Brahma Samhita we say Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes, but he does not have any cause. So he is the Purana, oldest of all. Then he is the ruler, the controller. Okay? In material world, when somebody is too old, we think that person may not be able to do much work now. For example, when somebody turns 60, the companies also want to retire that person. Now his efficiency will go down. He cannot do much work, right? He cannot handle. So in material world, we know when somebody is too old, then they cannot do much. They cannot control much. Even let's say for doctor, if doctor is 100-year-old, then you will doubt, will he be able to operate the surgery, or will he be able to do the surgery properly? Will he be able to kind of hold the scissor or something, or his hands will be shaking? But here Krishna is oldest of all. Still, he is the supreme controller, right? He is the ruler of over everything. So when we think of somebody as a controller, as the ruler of something, then we think he must be very big, he must be giant. But then next quality Krishna says that he is the smallest of all. He's smaller than the smallest. Anurayan. So Krishna is smallest than the smallest means he is sitting in the heart as a super soul. Okay? We know the soul, the size of soul is so minute, and Krishna is also sitting side by side to the soul, and he also becomes so small that he is entering in the heart and residing there in everybody's heart as a companion, intimate companion of everybody. So he is greater than the greatest in the form of Mahavishnu, from whom everything come into existence, and he is smaller than the smallest in the form of Paramatma sitting in the heart. And then next quality Krishna mentions is he's the maintainer of everyone. Okay, we cannot maintain ourselves, we cannot maintain our families if Krishna does not provide everything in the background. Whatever we are able to maintain, also because of the mercy of Krishna. If there is no rain, we cannot maintain our own household also. If there is no digestive system, digestive fire, we cannot maintain this body, right? We cannot digest any food what you eat. So that is also happening in the background because of mercy of Krishna. So Krishna is the maintainer of everyone. And then his form is inconceivable. Achintyam Rupa. His form is inconceivable. We may not understand the form of the Lord by just our mere contemplation, speculation. We cannot understand. We can understand the form of Krishna only with the help of the scriptures, which are also given by Krishna by his mercy. So why his form is inconceivable? Because he is not of this material world. He is beyond this material world. He is beyond this material nature. We are all influenced by the three modes of material nature, but Krishna is not influenced by the three modes of material nature. Okay, and we discussed this example. Just as the sun can never be covered by the clouds, clouds cover our vision of the sun. Because clouds have covered our vision, we are not able to see the sun. But it does not mean the clouds have covered the sun. So same way, the modes of material nature, they cover us, and we are not able to understand the Supreme Lord. And then Krishna is effulgent like the sun, Aditya Varana. So these are some of the qualities which Krishna is mentioning here, that by remembering the qualities of the Supreme Lord, he is the supreme controller, he is the supreme maintainer, he is Drishta of everything. He is smaller than the smallest, bigger than the biggest, he is beyond this material nature and all that. By just remembering these qualities, we can remember Krishna, we can meditate on Krishna. And then next verse, 8.10. Now, the next four set of verses, Krishna is talking about Yoga Mishra Bhakta, how they remember the Supreme Lord, or how they can remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. Somebody who are practicing Ashtanga Yoga, because in 6th chapter, Lord Krishna talked about Ashtanga Yoga also. If somebody is practicing Ashtanga Yoga, for them to be able to remember Krishna at the time of death, Prayana Kale, what is needed, right? They also have to add the element of bhakti to be able to get that success at Prayana Kale, at the time of death. So 8.10, Lord Krishna says, Prayana Kale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणम अवेश्य सम्यक सतम परम पुरुषा उपेति दिव्यम. So one who at the time of death fixes his life hair between the eyebrows, and by the strength of yoga with an undeviating mind engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here in this verse, Lord Krishna is talking about Ashtanga yogi, right? Somebody who is practicing that yoga system, focusing on their breathing in that way. So what Krishna is saying, what they have to do to get the success at the time of death, they have to fix the life air between the eyebrows, bring on this chakra here between the eyebrows, and with the strength of yoga, control their mind, engage in remembering the Supreme Lord. Bhaktya yukto yoga balena. So they have to add the element of bhakti. They have to remember the Supreme Lord at that time by uplifting their life air between the eyebrows. Now, the life air, okay, wherever the life air is within the body, they have to uplift it from that point, from that chakra to this um, chakra, which is in the middle of the eyebrows. So in bhakti, the mind is focused upon the divine attributes of God's form, qualities, pastime, etc. And when bhakti is performed by itself, it is Shuddha Bhakti. Okay? Jnana Karma Adi Anavritam. So that is Uttama, Kevala Bhakti, Shuddha Bhakti. When it is performed alongside with Ashtanga Yoga, it's called Yoga Mishra Bhakti. So here, as I said, Krishna is speaking about a yoga Mishra Bhakta whose primary path is yoga, but then he adds the element of bhakti because that is ultimate necessity for that person, that yogi also to get success. So from verse 10 to 13, now Krishna describes about the yoga Mishra Bhakta. And we have to remember, Bhagavad Gita is not as a manual of one type of particular process which Krishna is endorsing. It's like a counseling session, right? Lord Krishna is talking about all the different processes. He gives his kind of direction. He is giving the comparison between these various paths and helping make the decision which one is good, better, or best. But he himself does not directly endorse something. He talks about karma yoga, he talks about ashtanga yoga, now he's talking about bhakti yoga. And here in this chapter, actually Krishna is giving a contrast between ashtanga yoga and bhakti yoga, that if somebody is following the process of ashtanga yoga, for them to get the success at the time of death, this is what is needed. For somebody who is practicing the process of pure bhakti, kevala bhakti, for them to get success at the time of death, this is needed. And Krishna gives a very clear comparison, so one can very easily understand which one is better. Okay, so that is what Lord Krishna is doing here also. Now he is telling us, as a Ashtanga yoga practitioner, yoga Mishra Bhakta, what is needed for them. So people have different tendencies, people have different natures because of their so many of lifetimes. Okay, even when four people go to buy clothes for themselves, they end up choosing different colors, styles, fashion. And if the shop kept only clothes of one particular color, one particular style, it will be very difficult to cater to the variety inherent in human nature, because people want variety. The same way Krishna here in spiritual path also, because people have performed various sadhanas in their past lifetimes, and Vedic scripture, they embrace that variety while simultaneously stressing on which one is the best. For example, here stressing upon bhakti, that bhakti, devotion to God, is the best, is the common thread that ties them all together. Okay, so here, say, we can say Ashtanga yogi, how he can get success, he need to add the element of bhakti. Bhaktya yukta, yoga balena. So one need to bring the prana in the middle of the eyebrows, then that will attain to the Supreme Lord. And what does it mean to situate the prana in the middle of the eyebrow? So pranavayu is situated in a particular place in the body. Okay, it's starting from Muladhara Chakra, the lowest one when somebody is sitting at the lotus posture. Okay, the lowest one at the kind of the rectum area or at the end of our spine, that is called the Muladhara Chakra. And then lifting from Muladhara Chakra to the topmost chakra in the middle of or at the top of the head, that is called Sahasra Chakra. So one need to lift that pranavayu from the wherever place that is. And at the time of death, actually wherever that pranavayu is, it will go out from the body from the nearest hole in that location. So as I said, if the pranavayu is situated at the Muladhara Chakra, the lowest chakra, then from which hole it will go out? Okay, the rectum or the anus. And if slowly it comes up, if the pranavayu is leaving out from the mouth or from the nostrils, from the eyes, so from wherever the life air, the pranavayu is situated, it will try to go out from the nearest hole. So that's why the Ashtanga yogi, their purpose is to lift the pranavayu up so that it can leave from the top of the skull. And why? Because from which hole the pranavayu leaves, it also describes what type of planet that living entity may be able to attain. So if the pranavayu leaves from the lowest hole in the body, then it will go to the lower planetary system. And if it goes out from the topmost hole in the body, from the topmost chakra, then it will attain to the highest planet in the material world, or it may be qualified to attain to the Supreme Lord if they are able to remember the Supreme Lord also at that time, as Lord Krishna is mentioning in this verse. So that's why Lord Krishna is saying the practitioner of Ashtanga Yoga, they have to bring the pranavayu in the middle of the eyebrow, and they have to remember the Supreme Lord at that time to be able to attain the maximum benefit, attain the supreme destination. Now, as a devotee, we don't have to bother where the prana is situated, but as an Ashtanga yogi, they have to be concerned about this, right? As a devotee, our goal is simply to remember Krishna. We don't bother about where the pranavayu is situated and all. So, in the next verse, what Lord Krishna is describing here, so the person who are learned in the Vedas and who utter the oṁ-kāra, and who are great sages in the renounced order, they enter into the Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. So here also Lord Krishna is focusing on Ashtanga yogi, and what they do is to gain the ultimate success is, even though they are performing all these austerities, they are performing celibacy, doing all these yogasana, and alongside with that they utter the name oṁ-kāra, right? They chant om. And what is om? Om is also the sound vibration, the, in one sense, representation of Krishna, his impersonal form. So om represents Krishna in his impersonal form. And various places, while referring to the Nirguna, the formless aspect of the Lord, he has been called by the name Akshara. And the word Akshara means imperishable. Akshara. Okay. So in this word, Lord Krishna is describing, again, for the path of Yoga Mishra Bhakti, whose goal is to merge in the impersonal Brahmajyoti, to attain the formless aspect of God. So here Lord Krishna is saying the great sages, right, who are learned in the Vedas, who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. So that is their desire. Their desire is to enter into the impersonal Brahmajyoti of the Lord. And they remember the Lord in the form of Akshara as imperishable while chanting oṁ-kāra. So they are performing many austerities, renouncing the worldly desires, practicing brahmacharya, and in that way, while practicing very rigid austerity sadhana, they are able to attain that impersonal Brahmajyoti. And text 12, Lord Krishna further says, the yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagement, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life here at the top of the head. One establishes himself in the yoga. So again, for Ashtanga yogi, what is needed is closing all the doors of the senses, is so that the senses does not run towards their sense object. So that is called pratyahar. So close all the doors of the senses and fix the mind on the heart. So here in the verse, Lord Krishna says, they detach from all the sensual engagement and fixing the mind on the heart and bringing the life here at the top of the head. So in that way, they are able to exit from the topmost hole and attain to that Brahma Jyoti. Now, what is the meaning of fixing the mind on the heart? Because the soul is situated in the heart. So fixing the mind on the heart means they fix their mind on the soul, for which heart is the seat. And they raise the prana in the head area. When one is situated like this, they establish themselves in yoga, means in connection with the Lord. And while after being situated in this yoga, they practice vibrating the sacred syllable Om. Om iti ekaksharam Brahma. So after being situated in this yoga practice, being closing all the doors for the senses, fixing the mind on the soul, bringing the prana to the top of the head, in that way, in that situation, they vibrate this syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters. So if one thinks of the supreme personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planet. So here, while chanting Om also, again, it depends on the consciousness of the particular yogi. If while chanting Om, if they are remembering the impersonal aspect of the Lord, they will go to Brahma Jyoti. If they remember the supreme personality of Godhead, then they can also attain to spiritual planet also. Salokya, right? Then they can go to the planet of the Supreme Lord. So Lord Krishna is describing the process of meditation in the context of Ashtanga Yoga Sadhana. And he states that one should chant the syllable Om to bring the mind into focus. And while practicing austerities, maintaining the vow of celibacy, so in that way they can gain success. So while vibrating the syllable Om, Om is the representation of Brahman, impersonal aspect. And remembering me, Krishna says, somebody who is remembering the personal form of Krishna. So if he gives up his body in that situation, he also attains to Paramagati. So yah priyati tyaja deham sayati paramam gatim. So Krishna is saying in that state, if somebody quits his body, they will also attain to Paramagati. So for example, now understand it with this analogy. Okay. If you ask somebody, what is your phone number? Let's say L24846485155. And same way, if you ask, what is Krishna's phone number? Okay. It's Krishna's phone number is this oṁ-kāra, chanting Om, or any other names of Krishna. So that is the phone number of Krishna. So when we are dialing the number, when we are talking to somebody, you remember that person, right? In the mind, that picture appears when you are even calling the number, or the other person picks up the phone. When you hear their voice, you have their picture in your mind. When you're calling your parents in India, even though it's just a voice call, not as a video call, but you are remembering their face, you are remembering their form. So same way, while chanting Om, one may remember Krishna, one may remember Krishna's form also. If somebody has that experience, somebody has that practice. And while chanting the names of Krishna directly as Krishna, Rama, Narayana, Vishnu, Govinda, Mukunda, Madhava, so one remembers the form of the Lord. So while chanting Om also, one may be able to remember the personal form of the Lord. And Lord Krishna is saying, based on whatever is their remembrance while chanting Om, right, while chanting oṁ-kāra, if they are remembering the Brahman, the impersonal aspect of the Lord, they may attain to the impersonal effulgence of the Lord, merging into the Brahma Jyoti. If they remember the personal form of the Lord, they can attain to the spiritual abode of the Lord, as the same abode as Vaikuntha. So the impersonal sound of Krishna is Om, but the sound Hare Krishna or Hare Rama that contains Om. Okay, as Krishna simultaneously has three aspects: Brahmeti, Pramatmeti, Bhagwan iti Shabdate. So Bhagwan aspect already contains the Brahman aspect and Paramatma aspect. So same way, the direct names of Krishna already contains Om. Okay, so somebody does not have to separately chant Om if somebody is already directly chanting the name of Krishna. So the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra is recommended for this age. So if one quits his body at the time of life, at the end of his life, while chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So he certainly reaches one of the spiritual planets. There is no doubt. One should not think by just reading this particular text of Bhagavad Gita that Krishna is saying, no, no, you have to chant Om. Right? Sometimes people reach to this wrong conclusion also. Krishna is saying, oh, chant the name Om. So we have to chant Om. No, the direct names of Krishna already contains Om. So just chanting the Mahamantra also will give us that best result of reaching to the spiritual abode, spiritual planets. Now text 8.14. Up to here, as I said, 10 to 13, Krishna was talking about the Ashtanga Yoga practitioner, that they have to add the element of bhakti. But 8.14, now Krishna brings the focus on Kevala Bhakti. Okay, so Shuddha Bhakti, kind of pure Bhakti, without any mixture of other things as a karma, jnana, yoga, etc. So 8.14, again, very important verse. Ananya chetah satatam yomam smrati nityashah tasya aham sulbhaparatha nityayuktasya yoginah. So for one who remembers me without deviation, Ananya chetah satatam, who remembers me every day, all the time. Okay? Ananya cheta satatam. So one who remembers me without deviation, tasyaham sulbha paratha. I am very easy to obtain for them. Why? Because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Nitya yuktasya yogina. So this is very important verse Krishna is saying. So for one who remembers me without deviation. Without deviation means every day, all the time. For them, I am easy to obtain. Now, again, this is coming back to that practice, right? One has to practice remembering Krishna all the time. So now Krishna is talking about pure devotional service. And he will describe remembrance by comparing the spiritual and material nature. So Krishna is going to give us the comparison between the material world and the spiritual world, and how one can remember Krishna by comparing the material and spiritual nature. So most important word in this verse is Ananya Cheta. If there are many verses in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna has used this word Ananya. What is the meaning of Ananya? Na Anya. Okay. There's nobody else. Na Anya. So unalloyed, undeviating. So one who remembers him undeviated without mind engaged in any other thing, for him he is easy to attain. Okay, right now our mind may be engaged in service of somebody, but is that service out of love? We may be doing some service, but it may be just out of some obligation, okay, out of some sense of maybe duty, but not necessarily maybe with love. So we have to remember Krishna with undeviating mind. Goal is to attain that Supreme Lord, Param Purusha. So what can be attained with Ashtanga Yoga? with the help of little bhakti element, it can be attained by only bhakti yoga also. And that's much more easier to follow. And that's what Krishna is emphasizing here. For them, it's I am very easy to attain. Tasyaham sulbha paratha. For them, I am very easy to obtain. For Ashtanga Yoga, they have to do very laborious task, very laborious process, so much hard work, so much of following the austerities and all. Here, Krishna says it's very easy to obtain. So, Krishna is saying engaging with Bhakti Yoga or Bhakti Yoga is easier for two reasons. What are the two reasons given here? Because it's easy to engage the mind in positive devotional service than just saying no to material things, right? Saying no to material things or just controlling the mind may be very difficult, but engaging in positive devotional service is easy. Now, whenever mind is told not to do something, ultimately mind goes to that only. So in Ashtanga Yoga, more focus is say no to the mind, but it is very difficult because mind rush towards that thing only. Okay. For example, as a funny instance, if somebody says don't think of monkey, then you will be thinking of monkey only. You can try that. You can try that. Okay, I don't want to think about monkey. Then in your mind, monkey is coming again and again. So when we say no to certain thing, mind runs towards that. But in bhakti, it's easier to control by engaging in positive devotion service. And second reason why Krishna says bhakti yoga is easier, because Krishna gives his special mercy to the devotees to advance spiritually. And Krishna says, Dadhami buddhi yogam tam, that I give them the intelligence. And here the word used is satatam and nityasha. Satatam and nityasha means always, regularly, every day. So pure devotee always remember Krishna and meditates upon him. And these are the qualifications of the pure devotee, and for whom the Lord is much easily attainable, as Krishna is himself saying, Tasyaham sulbha paratha. So it's kind of depends on the consciousness of the devotee. Two devotees may be serving the deity, but the consciousness may be very different. Okay, one may be a neophyte devotee. For him, deity is the only thing. For another devotee is a very advanced devotee. So the level of consciousness may be very different. So Ananya Bhakti is when one can never forget Krishna, even for a moment. Na Anya. For him, there is no other person, there is no other process, there is no other object. That is the meaning of Ananya, Na Anya. For example, King Kulashekara. Right? Kulashekara, he was a great devotee of Lord Ram. And he was always absorbed in the thoughts of Lord Ram. And as he is hearing the pastimes of the Lord, and he hears about something as Lord Ram being sent to the exile, and he immediately is filled with so much of anxiety, and he want to go to the forest to bring Lord Ram back. And when he hears about that, okay, somebody is telling him Ram Katha, and they tell now the war is going to happen between Lord Ram and the army of Ravana. And he tells his own army to get ready. We will go to help Lord Ram. That is his level of consciousness. He is completely absorbed in that, remembering the Lord all the time. So his ministers decide not to speak of any Karunya pastimes of the Lord, only the pleasure pastime, like Lord Ramchandra, marriage with Sita Devi, and all that. So they decided that now onwards, let's not talk about any Karuna Prasanga, only speak about the pleasure pastimes. But one time the main priest who used to come and speak about Ramgatha, he was not able to come. So he sent his son to go and speak about Ramgatha. And he forgot to mention to not to speak about any karuna pastime. So this boy came and he started speaking Ram Katha, and he talked about Ravana came in disguise and kidnapped Mother Sita. And immediately again King Kulashekara was filled with that anxiety and said, prepare our army, we'll go and protect Mother Sita. He completely gets into that pastime as if this is happening right there and he is part of that pastime. So just like for a businessman sees money everywhere. For him, it's money, 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 money. Right? For a pure devotee, he sees Krishna everywhere. So Krishna says, Yo mah pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati. Tasyaham na pranashyami. Sacha mein na pranashyati. So for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am not never lost to him, nor he is ever lost to me. So that was in 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna mentioned this one. And how Krishna shows his mercy to the devotees. There is another story which demonstrates this point. There is a very wonderful Tamil poet, Vedanta Desika, who had written commentaries on Ramayana also actually. So this Vedanta Desika, he saw one hunter. See, hunter's task was basically he will hunt the animal, he will catch the rabbit, and he will just go and cut off the rabbit and cook the rabbit like that. So he has so much of cruelty in his heart. But he saw one very wonderful scene once that this hunter was there and one rabbit came and the rabbit was just falling at the feet of this hunter. He was rolling into the feet of the hunter. Such a kind of a tender rabbit and rolling into the feet of the hunter. Hunter got so much pity on this rabbit. He picked up the rabbit. Now, otherwise, the hunter mindset will be so much cruelty just to take the rabbit and cut it up and cook it up. But he got compassion on that rabbit, seeing the rabbit kind of rolling around his feet. So he let that rabbit go. He picked up the rabbit and just sent him off into the forest. And Vedanta Desika, when he saw this, he fell unconscious actually, seeing that, oh, this hunter who is so cruel by nature, he also have that sense of compassion, feeling of compassion. And then what to speak of the Supreme Lord, who is so compassionate to all the living entities? What to speak of his compassion towards the living entity who takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord? And the Supreme Lord is anyways known as Karuna Sindhu. Say, Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu, Dina Bandhu Jagatpate. So he is so merciful, he is ocean of compassion. And when the living entity takes shelter at the feet of the Lord, how much compassion the Supreme Lord will show on that living entity. Okay, he will try to take him back to the home, back to his home. So that's why the Supreme Lord is saying, somebody who is practicing bhakti, who are surrendered unto me, who are constantly remembering me, they have no other shelter. Na anya, ananya cheta ananya cheta satatam, who are constantly remembering me. For them, I am very easily attained. Tastyaham sulabha paratha. So that is what Lord Krishna is telling here, that if the devotee practices to remember Krishna all the time, they can definitely attain me. And then text 15, Lord Krishna will speak about the Falashruti, what happens when somebody's mind is fixed on Krishna, and very famous spoken words which comes Dukhalya Shashvatam, that comes in that verse. So we'll stop here and we'll continue from text 15 in the next session. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Let's see if there is any question or comment. Okay, hope it's not very complicated, right? It's a very clear, straightforward flow of this chapter. What Lord Krishna is trying to tell us here, how to achieve the Supreme Lord, and by the different practitioners also.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Vijay Prabhu.
Prabhuji, just a small comment. Text number 9, the version which I have, the last line says, Maditya Varnam Tamasaha Parastata. Actually, it is Aditya Varnam. So there is a
Aditya. So it's, see, the
it's a printing
word
mistake or
ma.
something.
No, it's not printing mistake. The word ma is connected with rupa. So it's rupam, achintya rupam, and then aditya varnam, tamasaha
Okay.
prasada, parastat.
Okay.
So it's not
continuous word.
maditya varnam, it's aditya varnam only. The ma connects with rupa. So it's rupam.
Okay.
Achintya rupam. So it's basically sandhi ched, where the sandhi ched is done.
A small mistake, of course, is there in the line. I mean, these are small things. If you bring it to knowledge of the Bhaktivedanta Institute, they correct it. See, in the line, the mind is fickle, and therefore it is necessary to engage the mind by force to think of Krishna. It is TZO. Z is unnecessary there.
That may be some typo may be there, and this may be typo in the online version.
Oh, okay.
Are you looking at the online version or
physical book?
okay,
Book.
you are in the physical book. Okay, yeah, there may be some typo.
So these things and all can be pointed and it can be corrected in the next version or something like that. Is there a way to reach that?
They do sometime when they find any such mistake.
So Prabhu, where exactly are you looking at it? I'm also looking at the book. So maybe it's already fixed.
It's text number 8, and the last para, it's about 4 lines. It is the mind is fickle, and therefore it is necessary to engage the mind by force to think of Krishna. So 2 is TZO instead of TO.
Okay, in the online version it is correct.
Online version is correct.
It's also correct in the already corrected maybe in this one.
Yeah. In your book it's correct.
In the book is also correct.
Yeah, so maybe one particular printing version you had, there may be a mistake. They already corrected it. Yeah, so it had happened wherever with time, if they found any spelling mistake or something, so they have corrected some of those in the next printing edition.
Yeah, I have second edition.
Which edition, Prabhuji?
I have the second edition, Prabhu.
Second edition.
Okay,
and this one is a big one. Yeah,
okay,
that's
okay, okay. Right.
So those are secondary things. Let's come to the topic here.
Topic, Prabhuji. The last verse, words 14, text 14. Even whatever state you remember, even in that also he says that if you meditate, in different ways, there are 5 different ways in which. So suppose you meditate as though you want to be as a friend of Krishna, as Sakhya Baba, right?
Yeah.
Then you enter into spiritual world as though you are a friend of Krishna there.
Yeah. So again, remembering Krishna in what relation, right? Then it gets into those details. So as he said, we can remember Krishna.
So that's also possible. I mean, if anybody, any devotee remembers in whatever state, for example, so he would attain in that state in the spiritual world.
Right. So the main thing what Krishna is focusing on is to remember him. Right? We can remember him, we can remember Krishna in varieties of ways, as I said, Nam, Roop, Guna, Leela. In that also, now in different rasa. Okay, somebody can be in Dasya rasa, or Sakhya rasa, or Vatsalya rasa, or Madhurya rasa. So one can remember Krishna in any particular relationship also. And in the spiritual world, then they may enter into that particular relationship. Okay. So those are as detail. The principle is to remember Krishna. Right?
Right.
Okay. Anything else?
Prabhu, I have one separate question, but on Prabhu's question, so where for the yogi, where in verse 13, as it stated that the focus is on focusing mind at the heart and holding the pranavayu in
At the top of the head.
in the forehead. So that's kind of you're stopping the breathing, or breathing is controlled there, and the connection is between the heart and the and the agya chakra, and without deviating. Now, when in the 14 and the text 14, where Krishna is saying that just remember me, so is that concept of connecting the mind and the as it stated in number 13, it also applies in 14? That is also a kind of a prerequisite, or it's just remembering?
So in 14, Krishna is not talking about anything related to yoga now. Krishna is talking about Ananya Bhakti. Okay, text 13 was Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Somebody who's practicing yoga, they also have to ultimately remember Krishna. Otherwise, if they are just focusing on the soul, they have brought their life here on the top of the head, and they leave their body in that situation. They don't attain anything. They have to come back. They can also attain the ultimate destination if they remember Krishna, at least by chanting oṁ-kāra, right? Even in the impersonal aspect of Krishna. But here, text 14, Krishna is saying pure bhakti. Somebody just remembers Krishna. Now, Bhishma Pitama is not controlling his breathing method. Right? When he's lying on the arrow bed, he is not practicing yoga process to control his breathing or something, to bring his life here to the top of head. His top of head and feet are at the same level in that state. So he is focusing primarily on just remembering Krishna, by remembering Krishna's name, fame, qualities, etc. So there is no other element needed. So that is Ananya Chetasaha, which Krishna is talking about in text 14.
Okay, Prabhu. So the other question which I have here is, so there is Navada Bhakti levels, and there are chakras there. So there are two questions here. One is there any correlation of the level of
No.
chakras that are being practiced and the bhakti level?
No, there is no correlation which I have ever heard of or read of between the chakras and Navada Bhakti. It says one practices any particular process of Navada Bhakti, even though just Shravanam or just Kirtanam or just Smaranam, just by one process also one can attain complete success.
So if person is not in the
that
practice of, sorry, go ahead.
in the process of chakra, lifting the chakra, one has to lift the chakra from one to another to another to another, bringing to the highest. In the case of Navada Bhakti, it's not that first one has to do this, then do the second, then do the third, then come to the ninth state, then only he is perfect. No, even if somebody does one perfectly, he can attain the complete success. And Parikshit Maharaj did only Shravanam, right? And he got the complete success. Shukdev Goswami is mentioned as the Acharya for Kirtanam. He just spoke about the glories of Krishna, and he got the topmost success. Smaranam. Who comes as Smaranam? Prahlad Maharaj, who remembered the Lord and he got the complete success. So just by following one particular process of Navda Bhakti also, one can attain the complete success. So there is no relation or correlation between Navda Bhakti and the chakras.
Okay, Prabhu. Yeah, that. So the other part of the question is, Prabhu, and one of the recent lectures heard about how to identify at what stage of bhakti you are, like a Nishtha stage or yeah. Is there any simple way to introspect on that?
Yeah, there is a very simple way to introspect on that. That are we making progress? If our attraction towards Krishna is increasing, it means we are making progress. Now, how is the test? Yesterday I heard one way wonderful analogy. Okay. So like when the child is born, they do the child some sort of samskara, right? They put one side Bhagavatam, on other side some coin or some other things and see where the child goes towards. If the child is going towards Shastras, then his inclination is kind of more as a spiritual. If he goes towards money, maybe he's of Vaishya Pravritti, right? He's more into as a business-minded mentality. If he goes towards some weapon, maybe he is a Kshatriya mentality kind of thing. So they kind of check the consciousness of child or his inclination. The same way, after being practicing bhakti for some time, what is our inclination? Where our consciousness is going? So if one side somebody keeps Bhagavatam in front of us, and another side some YouTube video is playing, where your consciousness is going? Will you pick up, listen to the YouTube video, or you will pick up Bhagavatam and read Bhagavatam? Where is consciousness flowing? That gives us the test, right? How much we have progressed. Are we still interested to watching to some YouTube videos, some Facebook videos or something, or you are interested to reading something from Bhagavatam or listening something about Bhagavatam? So that is a simple test of our progress.
Yeah. So Prabhu, this question came in from last week, Bhakti Direction. Prabhu mentioned that some place they heard that the Nishtha stage is when easy check is that Nishtha stage is when you
Nishtha stage.
towards more. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So we know there are these 9 stages, right? From coming to the stages adhau shraddha tata sadhu sangha tato anartha bhajana kriya tato anartha nivritti. Then one comes to the stage of nishtha, ruchi, asakti, bhava, prema. So these are the 9 stages. So at the stage of nishtha, one becomes steady. So earlier, when we have our fickling faith, we start with our little fickling faith, that is unsteady state. In the beginning, we have unsteady state. So we are coming in the association of devotees because we have some faith there, even though it's very tender. So some faith is there. We come to sadhu sangha, we start the process of bhajana kriya, chanting the name, hearing about Krishna. Then our marjanam is happening, right? Anartha nivritti is happening. And slowly one comes to the stage of nishtha. Nishtha means now you have come to a stage where your sadhana is stable now. That is the meaning of nishtha. Your sadhana is at least stable now. You are not wavering anymore. So chanting 16 rounds, yes, I'm steady. Okay. I'm not going back to 8 or sometimes jumping to 10 or 12, again going back to 4. So no, now you are come to a stage of steadiness. Anartha nivritti does not mean all the anarthas have completely gone 100%. Anartha nivritti means anarthas are gone to that extent that your sadhana becomes steady. You come to the stage of nishtha. Anarthas are still there. It's not that anarthas 100%. Anarthas are still there till the stage of bhava also. Okay. So some anarthas are still there to the stage of bhava also. Anartha nivritti means they are gone to the extent your sadhana is steady now.
So that's why you mentioned that Jada Bharat Maharaj
Yes.
Even at the stage of bhava.
He was at the stage of bhava, the anartha came, right? Attachment to something else. So it was not ananya in his case. He got attached to some other object, some other living entity. So the test of our progress is our consciousness flowing towards Krishna without hindrance, or we have other divergences of our consciousness. It's still looking for this or that as a material enjoyment.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Way to go. Long way to go, Prabhu.
We have a long way to go. I have a long way to go. I don't know if this lifetime is enough.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. If no other question, we'll stop here. Okay, thank you very much for joining.
Hare Krishna.